Is your devotee?
Divya Shakti? No, quite the opposite.
So she will probably hear him now.
Dandavat to all the Vaishnavas listening. Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. So we're reading from, as anyone tuning in will know, Madhya Lila, chapter 23, Prayojan Tattva, or Life's Ultimate Goal, translated into English, Life's Ultimate Goal. And it is the third chapter of Sanatan Shiksha, which is Mahaprabhu's instructions to Rupa Goswami at Prayag. Mahaprabhu has returned from Vrindavan. He has met with Rupa Goswami. He instructed Rupa Goswami for 10 days at Dasashvamedh Ghat. And then he spent some 2 months with Sanatan Goswami, talking to him quite comprehensively about the science of bhakti, science and practice of bhakti. Both theory and practice are covered relatively comprehensively. So for 2 months. So these 5 chapters were spoken by Mahaprabhu to Sanatan pretty much every day for 2 months. And the gist of it is given here by Kaviraj Goswami. And then, as you'll see, a lot of the verses here are from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. So they were reproduced in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu by Rupa Goswami. Even though this was spoken to Sanatan, Rupa and Sanatan, of course, they were brothers. Sanatan Goswami being the guru of Rupa Goswami. So Mahaprabhu first speaks to Rupa Goswami, who goes to Vrindavan, and then Sanatan Goswami is following in after Rupa Goswami arrives at the same place and meets with Mahaprabhu, or similar places, pretty much the same location. And then Mahaprabhu speaks more extensively to Sanatan Goswami, and he follows his younger brother Rupa to Vrindavan, where they live. They then live there permanently. And they follow Mahaprabhu's order of taking this tattva, this Vaishnav philosophy given to them by Mahaprabhu, and codifying it, like organizing it into a philosophical system, compiling it, essentially, and writing it down so that it can be preserved for posterity, for later generations, which is what they did in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Hari Bhakti Vilas, etc. And some other literatures which are a little more esoteric.
Which one is correct?
Sorry?
Which one is esoteric?
Oh, there's quite a few. Rupa Goswami has authored many literatures. So not so much Sanatan Goswami, but it's not so esoteric, but Rupa Goswami. They delve more into the Madhura Ras of Radha Krishna, and so they're not so recommended for beginners who might approach it with interpret it through sensual lens. Like you see something through rose-tinted glasses, right? You know that saying, see the world through rose-tinted glasses?
Yeah, something in French like this.
Yes, so they may view Radha Krishna Leela through sensually tinted glasses, lenses, which is incorrect. They'll get the incorrect impression. And so the net effect will be counterproductive. So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he prohibited his disciples from approaching, actually, reading such literatures, because the possibility of them misinterpreting it, seeing it through materialistic lenses, the possibility of that and the harm that could cause was higher than the possible reward. So the risk to reward ratio was too high. So some of the more esoteric literatures, he put them off limits. Not that, they weren't written to remain off limits, but that was his policy that he established. And it was a protective policy, better to be safe than sorry. But anyway, back to the point, the Mahaprabhu's instructions to Rupa and Sanatan were then explicated It's a new word I learned. Explicate means to take a text and develop it. The analysis of a text or a literary piece, and then you flesh it out, develop it. They are further explored. Bhakti primarily the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, and that is why so many verses are taken from the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu and presented here, because this is the source. Mahaprabhu's instructions to Rupa Goswami is the source of such material. So yesterday's verses, which we had a camera issue, so it was not broadcast. But yesterday we were going over the 9 stages of bhakti development, from which are Shraddha, Sadhusanga, Bhajana Kriya, Anartha Nivritti, Nishta Ruchi, Ashakti, Bhava and Prem. And Mahaprabhu is basically outlining them here. Sadhusanga Haiti Haya Shravana Kirtan, Sadhana Bhakti Haya, Sarvanartha Nivartan, Anartha Nivritti, Haile Bhakti Nishtahaya, Nishtahaite Shravanadhi Ruchi Upajaya. Ruchi Haite Bhakti Haya, Ashakti Prachura, Ashakti Haite Chate Janme, Krishne Prityankura, Se Bhava Gada Haile Dare Prema Nam, Se Prema Prayojana Sarvananda Dam. And then this verse, Adau Shraddha Tata Sadhu Sangota Bhajana Kriya, Tato Nartha Nivritti Syat Tato Nishta Ruchis Tataha Ata Shaktis Tato Bhavas Tata Prema Bhudanchati Sadha Kanam Ayam Premna Pradur Bhave Bhavet Kramanaha. And so these are 2 verses, and this covers the 9 developmental stages. In the beginning there must be faith. Then one becomes interested in associating with pure devotees. Thereafter, one is initiated by the spiritual master and executes regulative principles under his orders. Thus one is freed from all unwanted habits and becomes firmly fixed in devotional service. Thereafter, one develops taste and attachment. This is the way of sadhana bhakti, the execution of devotional service according to regulative principles. Gradually, emotions intensify, and finally there is an awakening of love. This is the gradual development of Godhead for the devotee interested in Krishna consciousness. So when we look at the 9 developmental stages, we can see that the first 4, as we were talking about yesterday, up to Anartha Nivritti, are somewhat mechanical. There is no saturation of the heart with bhakti, what is known as raga. When the heart is filled with bhakti, it's known as raga. So that doesn't exist. So if that doesn't exist, then the process must be somewhat mechanical and theoretical. The theory, and you're going through a mechanistic application of the theory. That is unavoidable if there are anarthas in the heart. So the heart is misguided. But once the anarthas are cleared, then there's an interim stage of nishta, steadiness. And after that, then you could say almost devotional service proper begins, when the heart, there's some amount of taste, begins with ruchi. One actually has taste for it. There is enjoyment, and it becomes fueled by one's heart and one's own desire to do it, because it produces taste and enjoyment, rather than an idea that it is what you should do because the Shastra tells you to do it, or it may be you're expecting some result further down the line. It becomes something that is inspired and tasteful, produces joy. And of course leading to Raga Bhakti, which is the ultimate goal. So it says, text 18 to 19, where we finished yesterday. When the seed of ecstatic emotion for Krishna fructifies, the following 9 symptoms manifest in one's behavior. Forgiveness, concern that time should not be wasted, detachment, absence of false prestige, hope, eagerness, a taste for chanting the holy name of the Lord, attachment to descriptions of the transcendental qualities of the Lord, and affection for those places where the Lord resides. That is, temples like a temple or a holy place like Vrindavan. These are called anubhav, subordinate signs of ecstatic emotion. They are visible in a person in whose heart the seed of love of God has begun to fructify. So all these ideas of disciplinarianism and religious self-imposed restrictions that we touched on yesterday, where when the heart is directed towards enjoyments of the world, they need to be curtailed. And so the average materialist will go, well, that's not a very happy thing to do, to curtail my drives, my interests, which generate happiness for me. So at first that can be a little difficult. We quoted the verse, Yat Krishna Nama Charitari Sitapya Vidya, that initially the holy name of Krishna may appear bitter to someone who is in a diseased condition. Rupa Goswami gives the example of someone suffering from jaundice in that verse. But with continued application of the medicine, which Ayurvedically, rock candy was a chief medicine for swollen liver, jaundice. Rock candy is naturally sweet, but for the person suffering from jaundice it tastes bitter. But with continued application, the intrinsic sweetness of sugar candy comes out again once the illness is reduced or cured. So the example being illustrative of the fact that with continued chanting, the intrinsic sweetness of Krishna's name is manifest. So it goes from bitter initially to sweet. It's quite an important point, because initially it can seem bitter. If you're addicted, then cutting off an addiction is painful at first, but it leads to long-term happiness. So that's the essential point being made. And then we see the vista of what devotional service is actually about opening up when the seed of ecstatic emotion for Krishna fructifies. Then maybe following a short stage of bitterness, then the following 9 symptoms manifest, and these are all highly welcome, optimistic symptoms. Forgiveness, no wasting of time. Detachment, absence of ego, and there's hope. Enthusiasm, taste, attachment, all of these things, qualities of the heart. So text 20, E nava prityunkara yanra chitihaya prakrita kshobhetanra kshoba nahihaya. If love for Krishna in a seedling state has fructified in one's heart, one is not agitated by material things. Tammopayatam pratiyantu vipra ganga chadevi dritachitam ishe dvijo pastrista kuhakas takshakova dasat valam gayata vishnu gataha. O Brahmanas, just accept me as a completely surrendered soul, and let Mother Ganges, the representative of the Lord, also accept me in that way. For I have already taken the lotus feet of the Lord into my heart. Let the snake bird, or whatever magical thing the Brahmana created, bite me at once. I only desire that you all continue singing the deeds of Lord Vishnu. So that's by Maharaj Pariksit. As the snake bird, as we said yesterday, is a dragon. Prabhupada translates it as a snake bird. We would today call it a dragon. Known as Takshaka, he was like a dragon, a chief, like a king, royalty dragon, assigned to incinerate Maharaj Pariksit. And then, so this is his verse, this is his expression in the prelude to that terminal event. He says, let Takshaka Vijo pastrista kuhakas takshakova. So let Takshaka, who has on the orders of this Dvijopasrista, meaning a Brahmana, let him, in other words, let my fate be what it is. I'm surrendered to that. I'm okay with that. Tatteno kampa susumikshimano. So one should be okay with their situation. In fact, grateful for the situation that a person is in. There's a verse by Brahma to Krishna, Tatteno kampam susumikshimano bunjana evatma kripam. Vipakam hridvag vapu bhe vidadan namaste jiveta yumukti pade sadayavak. Guru Maharaj liked to quote that verse. To see one's situation as a prescription, like a tailor-made prescription, not a generic prescription, but a karmic condition that is tailor-made. A prescription, tailor-made prescription of medicine for one's particular situation. And be grateful for that, for having received a medicine that is tailor-made for one's condition. To see one's situation as that, to see karma as that, as a reformative, educational, rehabilitative process, but not just a generic one that is tailored to each and every individual. And when tailored, like custom-made, not adapted, but made specifically for someone. Bespoke almost. You get a generic item of clothing from the store, and then you go to a tailor, and they tailor make something for you, which means it's made specifically for you. So, tattenu kampam susamikshamano is advising people to see their situation as tailor-made for them, as a prescription, as a package that has been delivered specifically for them, exactly what they need to learn in order to grow. And when that attitude can be adopted, then jiveta yo mukti pade sadaya bhak, liberation will come very soon. Of course, that attitude, that understanding leads to a sense of gratitude, because even though that prescription may be somewhat bitter medicine, you realize that ultimately it's for your benefit. It's the perfect medicine for you at this given time and place. So when you realize that you've been given the perfect medicine, naturally you're going to be grateful. And that is known as anukul, or hridvag vapubiya vidadan namaste.
Prabhu, but you want to make the effort to take this medicine, you need a certain amount of faith, right? Which we spoke the other day. This amount of faith is due to security, right? So there's no way the person without such kind of security, which means a certain amount of faith, that they could be touched or interested or whatever in this process, right? There's absolutely no way. You better forget about it.
That's true.
Right?
Yeah, there needs to be a certain amount of sukriti to appreciate devotional concepts.
So.
But that sukriti can come very quickly through exposure or association with devotees.
You can build your security in the present life.
Yes, of course.
For the coming
Yes.
events of your present life.
Yes.
So
And it also depends on the potency of the Vaishnava that one is exposed to. There's different degrees of Shakti or potency. Like Nityananda Prabhu, it's said that he is, it's said that Mahaprabhu is Mahabadanyaya, right? Namo Mahabadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate. So he's very merciful because he's liberally distributing Krishna Prema. But it's said that Nityananda Prabhu is even more merciful, because although Mahaprabhu is distributing Krishna Prema, there's a certain amount of eligibility. Someone has to have a certain amount of sukriti in order to appreciate it. and act on it. Whereas Nityananda Prabhu is distributing it without any consideration of eligibility. There is no criterion. If someone does not have the faith, i.e. the sukriti, to appreciate it, he supplies them with that. So the point being is that contact with a Vaishnava of a particular caliber is purifying to the person who comes in contact with them, to the point that they can have enough sukriti, they can develop the sukriti in the faith to appreciate concepts of bhakti. And of course, Nityananda Prabhu, if anyone is of that caliber, it's Nityananda Prabhu. So he's supplying people with that faith. It does not like something has to be built up through lifetimes of giving to the homeless or helping old ladies across the road, or whatever your concept of building good karma is. It may be that, but it's also known as ahoitaki, which means causeless. And it's causeless because it's got no material cause. It doesn't come necessarily under the laws of karma. So it's not like you go 2 + 2, like you do this and then you get bhakti. You do this and then you get the qualification for bhakti.
But then one more question. When Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says to not talk about Krishna consciousness to non-believers, what should we do then? If this kind of situation that you just described can happen.
To people who have no faith, there's based on the Das Nam Aparad, where to preach to the faithless. What is it? Offense number 9. Number 9 is to distribute the holy name, the glories of the holy name, to people that have no faith in such. Why? What's the principle behind it? It's because they will reject the holy name. They may cause some offense. And also a person's wasting their time. But to incite someone to cause offenses to the holy name, that in itself is offense. So it's a precaution not to give it to people that are inimical. But it's also common sense. If there are a lot of people that are hungry and queuing for food, hands outstretched, you give them food. You don't go chasing after people that are not asking for the food. So if you're a preacher and you're distributing Krishna consciousness, you go to those people that are favorable, that are interested, and there's enough of them around, rather than approaching and trying to convince people that are not interested. So it's kind of common sense. You focus on your target market, those that are interested in consuming your product.
I thought he said if you meet those people to preach karma candy to them. When you meet, because you don't know when you. Then he said more like doing. I thought I read that.
Okay, I'm not sure of the exact quote you're referring to, but the general principle can be understood that if you approach people that are inimical to the Krishna conception, it's not going to be productive. It's not going to be a pleasant experience, and it's going to cause them to respond in a way which is not helpful to them, to express their inimicality to Krishna. Why do that when it's not necessary? So there may be other ways to bridge the gap, to make contact with such people, as you said, like talk to them on a level that they can understand.
To get them to do good deeds, and then the sukriti will build up for them in the future.
But ultimately, if he's trying to spread Krishna consciousness or the chanting of the holy name, then there's enough people that are receptive to it to greater or lesser extents to not justify going and approaching people that have no interest. And there's enough of them as well. Guru Maharaj talks about this point when he was preaching in Madras in South India, and someone approached him and spoke to him about about his preaching strategy, tried to correct his preaching strategy, and he was saying there's enough people that are already hungry. We're feeding the hungry people. There's no need to modify anything or change anything. So it says, if love for Krishna in a seedling state has fructified in one's heart, one is not agitated by material things. And again, in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, as to be expected, it states that the first symptom of bhakti is that there's a freedom from the agitation of material life. So all of those things that would previously tug at one's attention, causing mental turbulence, they go. That is the first symptom of bhakti. There are 6 symptoms of bhakti. That is the first. The second is it grants auspiciousness, and it is concentrated bliss in its essence. It is rarely achieved, so it's not a cheap thing. It's rarely achieved. If you read the beginning of, if we want to recall the beginning of Sanatan Shiksha, which is chapter 19 of Madhya Lila, a few chapters ago, Mahaprabhu talks about how there are so many living entities, 8,400,000 species. Some are moving, some are non-moving. So there's animate and inanimate. And then among the animate, there are humans. And only a fraction of the living creatures, living entities are human. And of the human beings, only a fraction seek out spiritual self-improvement. And of those, a fraction are able to, I'm paraphrasing here, are able to understand Vedic concepts and or approach the Vedas with a certain amount of faith. And of those, only a fraction are able to understand the core message of the Vedas as bhakti. And of those that go on for bhakti, only a fraction are able to achieve the goal of bhakti. So like a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of a fraction. So the fourth symptom of bhakti is that it's rarely achieved. It's a valuable thing. It's not. Of course, today we are optimistic because Mahaprabhu, and this is the good quality of the defining good quality of Kali Yuga is that Mahaprabhu is distributing the Krishna Prem. So although Mahaprabhu is saying to Rupa Goswami that it's very rarely achieved, in fact, it's more readily achieved now than in any other time in history. And then the fifth symptom is that it makes impersonal moksha seem insignificant. And number 6 is that it attracts Krishna personally. Anyway, let's read another couple of verses. Text 21. Tam mapayatam pratiyantu vipra gangat. Oh, we just read this. Sorry. Yes, so Maharaj Parikshit is saying, I've accepted my fate. Let the Ganga also accept me. I've taken shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord. And please continue your discussion, your presentation, your talking of the Srimad Bhagavatam. And then Takshaka, of course, comes and bites him. And as we mentioned yesterday, Maharaj Parikshit had a son. His son was named Janmejai, who inherited his emperorship. And he went on a campaign of revenge against all the dragons. Killed them all. Which, in my opinion, explains why we see so much dragon iconography in history in various cultures around the world, but there's no dragons anymore. Bhagavatam talks how they were pretty much slaughtered almost to extinction. They came and begged for forgiveness from Janmejai, so a few were left. But pretty much it was a kind of a brutal extermination of the dragons in revenge for the dragon king Takshaka killing his father, Parikshit Maharaj.
In the fire sacrifice.
Sorry?
In the fire sacrifice.
They may have had a fire sacrifice going.
He pulled them all into the fire sacrifice. It's amazing pastime.
Oh, I see. Okay. Yeah, maybe symbolic that they were burning them all. I mean, they went on a campaign to pretty much just slaughter all of these creatures. Krishna sambandha vinakala vyartha nahiyaya. Not a moment should be lost. Every moment should be utilized for Krishna or connected with him. Maharaj Parikshit's expression, purport, Maharaj Parikshit's expression of anxiety is explained in this verse. He says, let whatever is destined to happen take place. It doesn't matter. Just let me see that not a moment of my time is wasted without a relationship with Krishna. One has to tolerate all obstacles on the path of Krishna consciousness, and one has to see that not a moment of his life is wasted outside of Krishna's service. Vagbe suvanto manasas marantas tanva namanto pyanisam natripta bhakta shravan netra jala samagram ayur harer eva samarpayanti. With their words they offer prayers to the Lord. With their minds they always remember the Lord. With their bodies they offer obeisances to the Lord. Despite all these activities, they are still not satisfied. This is the nature of pure devotees. Shedding tears from their eyes, they dedicate their whole lives to the Lord's service. It's another verse from the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Bhukti siddhi indriyata tare nahi bhaya. In the material field, people are interested in material enjoyment, mystic power, or sense gratification. However, these things do not appeal to the devotee at all. Yo dustyajan darasutan suhrid rajyam hridis prisa jaho yuvaiva malavad utama shloka lalasaha. King Bharat was very eager to attain the association of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, who is called Uttama Sloka, because poems and prayers are offered to him for his favor. In his youth, King Bharat gave up his attractive wife and children, as well as his beloved friends and opulent kingdom, just as one gives up stool after passing it. Purport: these are the signs of virakti found in a person who has developed bhav, a preliminary stage of love of Godhead. Verse is quoted from Srimad Bhagavatam 5:14-43. Sarvotama apanakke hina karimane. Although a pure devotee's standard is above all, he still considers himself to be in the lowest stage of life. So, should we finish there? The paradox of a devotee's personal opinion of themselves, their subjective sentiment, is that they see themselves as very fallen, whereas in fact their condition is quite the opposite. Somewhat paradoxical, that the closer one gets to Krishna, the further away one sees oneself. Seems somewhat paradoxical. All right. We'll read a little from Revealed Truth by Srila Bhaktisundar Govindadev Goswami Maharaj. This is the section entitled Pure Devotion, the chapter entitled The Transcendental Vibration Form of the Lord. Appealing in the court of mercy. When devotees try to chant the Lord's holy names, they may feel, I cannot attentively chant the Lord's holy name. I do not have a pure mood of surrender and devotion. So who am I? What qualification do I have? Krishna is so great. Why should Krishna bestow his merciful glance upon me? Through this realization and mood of self-examination, the devotee will eventually conclude to pray, the only hope I have is that I may receive Krishna's causeless mercy. If his causeless mercy suddenly comes to me, I will consider that my greatest good fortune and will get everything through that. If we bring ourselves before the Lord in the court of justice, we have no hope. But if we bring ourselves before the Lord in the court of mercy, we have so much hope. Srila Rupa Goswami and Srila Sanatana Goswami have expressed, Apane ayogya deke mane pan shobha tatapi tomara gune upajaya lobha. Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila 1204. We are sure that we are unqualified and insignificant. There is no doubt about this. We are fallen souls with many disqualifications, but we are also sure that Krishna is very merciful and highly qualified. There is no doubt about that. When we hear these types of prayers and promises in the scriptures, we become fully enthusiastic. Krishna's mercy is infinite and can easily take us into the transcendental abode of his service. Krishna's nature is to attract the jiva souls and reveal his ecstasy, Krishna Prem, in their hearts. Krishna is so merciful and can do everything, so we can always be hopeful. Devotees who are very attached to Mahaprabhu's teachings will try to chant the Lord's holy name with this exclusive mood. We have no other way but to chant the Lord's holy name in humble surrender. Devotees may sometimes count while they chant, and they may sometimes chant without counting. They may sometimes chant quietly and sometimes chant loudly. In all circumstances, they chant with a mood of prayer. Whether or not the Lord will see me or bestow his mercy upon me is his personal matter. I must simply chant his holy name and have faith that one day I may receive his causeless mercy. Jai Srila Bhaktisundar Govindadev Goswami Maharaj Gurudev Ki Jai, Shri Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami Prabhu Ki Jai, Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita Ki Jai. Hari Haraya Nama Krishna Yadavaya Namaha. Bhakti Kundu Dev Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Jai Vishnu Pad Srila Bhakti Dr. Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Bhagavan Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada ki jai. Rup Rup Guruvara ki jai. Bhakti Siddhanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada ki jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai. Samagari Vaishnav Mandal ki jai. Samagari Bhakti Kundu ki jai. Shri Chaitanya Saraswat Mat ki jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki jai. Jai Go Brahmanandi Hari.
Jai.